The Pam Goodwin Show is a show that features the biggest names in television, successful entrepreneurs, future new talents, and local heroes. She has no formal culinary training. She grew up in London. She has appeared on Food Network's show Dallas Cakes. Now she is bringing a little taste of London to her new retail location in Castle Hills. Welcome, Elizabeth Rowe. I am thrilled to have our next guest, Elizabeth Rowe from the London Baker, our famous cake artist. Welcome, Elizabeth, to the Pam Goodwin Show.
Thank you for having me.
How are you? I'm a huge fan of yours, living here in Castle Hills, and the London Baker is such a great asset to our community. And my favorite items are your croissants. Mm-hmm. And we can tell that you're not born, with your beautiful accent from the United States. I'd like to know, how did you get to Texas?
Yes, actually, that's a question I get asked quite frequently, actually. So, of course, everyone knows that Texans are the best. I did happen to meet a Texan, and I moved all the way from the UK over here to be with him.
And what year was that? How long have you been here?
Oh, that was 2008. And I actually always had a dream of coming to, the United States. But I thought, it probably wasn't in the cards for me. It's probably never going to happen. It was just going to be a dream. But I was at the right age where I was like, I don't have any strong commitments, in England. So this would be a great time for me to try moving abroad and see if it works out.
Well, it seems like it's working out. I read that you do not have culinary experience. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I am not ashamed of that at all. I think you can actually learn quite a bit when you are self-taught, because you don't have any rules that you're confined to. When they teach you certain ways at an institution, this is the way you must do it. And sometimes you can actually find better and more improved ways of doing things that are newer techniques that, you just venture off and find on your own.
So when you were a little girl, did you have a passion for cooking and baking? Because from that point to now being the Food Network celebrity that you are, that you've appeared numerous times and you're our celebrity in the neighborhood. But how did you have that passion as a little girl to cook and bake?
I did. I mean, I think everyone loves to, help their mum and, and their parents and things cook in the kitchen. But actually, I love to draw. My thing was art. That's what I used to do whenever I was bored, or if I, just needed something to do or just had too much energy, my mum would be like, why don't you go and paint something outside or draw something? So that's actually where my artistic background came from. I've been doing it since I was very, very small, and it just so happened to develop into baking and cakes as I got older.
I know some of your cakes that I've seen, displayed inside the London Baker, mm-hmm. and then on the Food Network show. But I would love for you to tell us, how did you ever get on the Food Network, and how many times have you been on there?
Oh, yes. So let's see. So I first got on to my first Food Network show, which was actually the Cake Wars. So it was Cake Wars, and I actually applied for that one. Got turned down the first time, and then the next season rolled around and I was like, I'm going to go for it again. So I applied, and this time I got on. And right after that, they contacted me and said, we're actually casting for Halloween Wars. Is that something that might interest you? And I was like, oh, spooky, creepy stuff? Like, yes, count me in. So that led to that one. And then from there, I ended up getting pulled to the back where the producers are, and they said they wanted to have a quick meeting with me. And I was like, sounds ominous and exciting. So I went back, and they actually said, we might have a few new projects in the works. Do you have a brick and mortar location? Because if so, you might be a good fit for a new show. And I was like, well, I don't right now. But because I just had a small studio, but I was like, I am working on getting a new location that should be opening up maybe next year. So they contacted me back, and that's when I was in the process of opening up my first shop, which is in Castle Hills. And they ended up timed out perfectly. They said I would just appear on like one episode, and they liked my cakes and ideas so much they had me on 3 instead. So that was fantastic, and that was the Dallas Cakes. And then after that, it was the holiday, championship. And then after that, it was the Food Network Challenge. So altogether, 5 so far.
Wow. And did you end up winning the Dallas Cake War? Or you won one of them, or a couple?
Yes. Yeah. So the Dallas one was actually not a competition. So that was really nice. They just followed you day in, day out and got to see you create some like awesome works of art. The last one we did was also the one that we did win, which was the Food Network Challenge. And it was the Back to the Future episode.
Wow. So what did you, I know some of your cakes that I've seen are quite elaborate. You did one huge dragon. I mean, how long do some of these cakes, take you to prepare?
Yeah. So some of those like very large ones, we call those show-stopping cakes. So we have like different levels that mean different hours that it takes to create them. So you can get like the show-stopping ones are typically like over 20 hours. And some of the ones that you saw in Dallas Cakes, or maybe some of the larger ones you may have seen on my website or Instagram, those actually took 40 hours.
Wow.
And that was 40 hours of just myself working on them, because at the time I didn't have the great team that I have behind me now that help with all these things. It was just me. So now I could probably knock one of those out a lot quicker.
And some of them I even saw, I think you did one. What was it, a class ring? I mean, it looks like
yes.
you could almost do anything out of a cake. Somebody brings you a picture, and then you can recreate it into a cake?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually some of my favorite pieces to work on, is when there's a lot of detail and someone's like, I want it to look as realistic as you can get it, so it doesn't even look like cake. Because to me, those are the most impressive ones, when people don't even realize it's a cake. But yeah, we've pretty much never said we can't do anything, whether it's class rings, whether it's vehicles. We've done some of a courthouse before, because someone was promoted to the judge, and that was like one of their cakes. We've done animals, pets in clothes, all sorts of things. So, and obviously wedding cakes. We do a lot of wedding cakes.
Yeah, I saw some of those wedding cakes, and it looked like it was like 8 feet tall. Or what's the tallest cake you've ever? Do you remember the tallest cake you've ever designed?
As of right now, the tallest one actually was for a wedding. Actually, early this year, just a few months back, and it was about 11 tiers tall. And was just over 7 feet.
Okay.
But then when you put that on a table that's, waist height, that cake towers above, everyone. It's quite the statement piece.
As you said, your artistic ability is really shown in your cakes. I'm always looking at them going, do people want, I'd be afraid to eat it because it's such beautiful artwork.
Yeah, we do get that. Oftentimes, people say, it's a shame to cut it, but, I insist you have to. That's the whole point. We don't just have a slogan that it's not just cake, it's an experience. It's exactly that. It is an entire experience. So if you just look at the cake and you sit it on your table and take pictures with it, you're only getting half the experience. The whole point is everyone is excited to eat cake. And whether you're scared to cut it or not, you just have to go in and just, cut into that cake and just get it over with and then eat it and enjoy.
And as a woman entrepreneur and finding your first relocation or your location that you did, how did you have someone backing you, or, women always kind of have a hard time finding funding? What were some of those challenges when you had to find your first location, or what made you go from were you cooking in your house to your first location?
Yes. So for one thing, I've always been a bit ambitious, a bit of a goal setter, and I always wanted my own business. Since I was 21, I wanted my own cake shop. So it took over 10 years, but eventually, obviously, I got that. And plus at 21, there's just things you just don't have life experience wise. So it's a good thing that I wasn't able to do it then, because I wouldn't have been as successful. But the lessons I learned along the way is you really do have to make things happen for yourself. I kept thinking every couple of years, maybe I would be in a better position to go after my dream. Maybe next year something will happen and it will make it easier for me. And it got to the point where I was, turning 30, and I was like, this is never going to happen unless I make it happen. It's not just someone's going to go, magic wand, here you go. Now everything is perfect. Go ahead. So I started just working towards that. I did go to the small business for a small business loan. I didn't obviously, unfortunately, meet their requirements. So I ended up, luckily, meeting someone that backed me on a financial level that wasn't through a business or anything like that. They just saw the potential that I had, and they were amazing, and they backed me. So they saw that I could do it, and I was wasting my talent in insurance.
I think that's key, especially in today's society, for women to collaborate with other people and find a partner. Are they still your investment partner with you today?
Yeah, they are. Although the business has been sustaining for a couple of years now, but we still very much keep in touch. They're like family to me, and they're wonderful. But yeah, everything that you have to do, with research, going online, there's a lot of avenues out there, but there's not necessarily one best one. You have to do your research and you have to try all of them. So
if someone's at home going, I have this fabulous cookie, or I have this, I would love to open up my own cake business, what would you recommend to someone, younger or at any age to open up their own, retail location?
Start off from your house. It definitely, with the Texas, food cottage laws, they make it very, very easy for you. And that's what I did for a couple of years before I grew a large enough clientele basis to, move on to a brick and mortar with the help of a financial backer. But you have to work really hard, be prepared to work long hours. It's going to happen. Everyone says be your own boss. You can do your own schedule. You have to work hard at it. There's a lot of things involved. If you want to be successful, you have to be your own marketer. You have to be, your own, entrepreneur when it comes to ideas and research. There's just so many avenues in order to be successful, and you have to wear many hats, basically. So, it's a lot of work, but it's very worth it.
So how did you actually find Castle Hills as your location? And your new retail location that just recently opened here, I think, is just phenomenal, and the decor and everything. But how did, out of everywhere in the world, coming from London, how did you pick Castle Hills location?
Well, so initially, it was actually a builder. Funnily enough, I was actually going to be working with obviously a constructor who was going to be doing my build out for my location, but I was yet to find and settle on a location. I just knew I wanted to work with them. And they actually were building doing some work on the country club in Castle Hills, and he noticed it and said, you have to check this place out. I think it'd be really good for you. And at the time, I was living in Fort Worth. And my realtor actually caught me at a very bad but good time where I was literally getting ready to leave with a wedding cake. So he called me and said, I found a place, I want you to come and see it. And in the haste that I was, because I didn't want to be late for the wedding, I just said, yes, that's great. Just send me the details, and didn't actually look at them. And then when he called me the following Monday, which I had agreed to without realizing it because I was in a hurry, he was like, here's the address. I'll see you there in 30 minutes. And I was like, wait, what meeting? 30 minutes? Where am I going? And unfortunately, I was very far out, and I ended up being a bit late. But because I was in a hurry, and because I agreed to a meeting without realizing it, I ended up driving all the way out to Castle Hills. And I was like, well, this isn't going to happen. It's too far. And as I pulled up, I was like, oh, yeah. I fell in love with the place. I was like, this has to be it. This has to be it. So that's actually how I ended up with my first location in Castle Hills. So luck, fluke, and fell in love with it.
Oh, wow. I know we're, living in Castle Hills, always, like I mentioned, the croissants and all your bakery. But I think that what really, to me, sets you apart is the quality of your ingredients.
Thank you.
Do you actually buy them from back at your home country?
Unfortunately, I don't find them and source them from England, although some things we do. I do get some things imported in, primarily by family as well. Whenever they visit, they often bring over, English tea, PG tips, which is a favorite, and things like that. But a lot of actually, you can get European ingredients. We have a supplier that actually sources out French butter. Okay. And that is actually what makes the croissants the way they taste, is actually because there's raw French butter in them and things like that. So you don't have to necessarily order straight from England to source your ingredients, but someone else can do that, third party.
Oh, that's good. And I always ask my guests, so, everything that you've done, what else is on your bucket list, your personal and business?
Yes. So I am coming up to the age of 37. I feel pretty well accomplished that I've got 2 locations now. I am in the process of modernizing my first location because it was lovely and it was awesome, but now it's time to give it a little freshen up. But I do intend to have a mobile business eventually. So kind of like a little coffee, tea, little cart type venture where we can go around mobily and go to events and people can rent it out. So if you have a bridal shower, for example, we have a very pretty cart that we set up, and it has some little pendants, English themed, and we can do tea basically, and crumpets and scones and cream and jams. It's like a mini little high tea basically on the go.
I love that.
But that's one of them. But personally, I think it's probably about time that I stop focusing as much on the business side of my life and maybe go a little bit more with the personal side. So I am planning on doing a wedding fairly soon. So, yes.
Really? Oh, for yourself?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes,
obviously. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. So that'll be happening next year.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see that cake, right?
I know. Or maybe we just won't do a cake at all. Or maybe we'll just get cheesecakes or pies. So maybe I've had enough of cake, but we'll see.
I think I also read maybe possibly a book. I mean, with all of your wonderful past projects you've done.
Yes, absolutely. And we do also plan to do some classes eventually. Once we get a little bit more settled in, I have done one-on-one tutoring before, but kind of like not necessarily a sip and paint kind of aspect, but very similar, where it'll be very relaxed, but you can learn at the same time. Maybe bring a friend or a date, But yes, we intend to do something like that maybe next year as well.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. How can our guests find you here in Castle Hills and on social media?
Yeah, so obviously internet is the best place. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook, and it's The London Baker. And you can also find us at thelondonbaker.com as well. But yeah, just tune in and see all the awesome events we have coming up. We do high tea occasionally as well. And we actually have a winter Wonderland themed high tea coming in December.
I will be there. I'm ready to sign up. Thank you, Elizabeth, so much for being on the show. You're doing a great job and successful woman entrepreneur, and so excited for you. So thank you very much.